Open your eyes. Are you in control? Would you rather be controlled or have the power to affect change? As humans, we live by rules. Our every step is controlled by law, by peer pressure, by the desire to be accepted and amalgamated into society. Mother Nature, the playground of life and death, creation and destruction, provides us all the body needs. The human constructs of ambition, greed, gluttony, religious extremism, these surpass the basic need for survival of the species. These aspects of life are created in the minds of humans for self-promotion above peers. But is this the overwhelming characteristic of life today? Do we all want to conform? Are we all desperate to be in control?
My name is Stuart Halfordy and I work for the Stop the War Coalition. I got involved when the war first started in Afghanistan originally, and I've been involved ever since. Well, today Tony Blair, the ex-Prime Minister of Britain, has come to do a talk on faith and globalisation, which we think is both hypocritical because the Pope, both popes, the previous Pope and this Pope, both condemned the Iraq War and said that it was an illegal war, an unjust war, and should never have happened. And Tony Blair, of course, was invited to become a Catholic. Not only that, but he's now in a Catholic cathedral lecturing on faith and globalisation. And we know what Tony Blair means by globalisation. He means taking over countries and running them himself. The difficulty, of course, is that Tony Blair is a war criminal. He led an illegal invasion of Iraq, and therefore he shouldn't be allowed to speak in a church. He should be standing in the dock in The Hague explaining his actions to a criminal court. There are two protests in effect today. There's one half-hour silent protest led by the Catholic Peace Movement called Pax Christi, and that is, they wanted to show their disgust at what the Catholic Church is doing without disturbing the peace and tranquility of the Catholic Church. Of course, this isn't actually a Catholic service. Everyone here has been invited to hear Tony Blair, and so therefore we thought it was acceptable to try and drown out the lies that Tony Blair is about to tell. And of course they will be lies, because he will gloss over the fact that the Iraq War has been a horrendous catastrophe. He'll gloss over the fact that what he means by globalisation is more wars. Tony Blair fought more wars as Prime Minister than any other Prime Minister in the 20th century. So this man is someone that really shouldn't be on the pulpit in a church discussing globalisation, because most people oppose what he believes globalisation is.
So, today we're here to protest our views on the war. We don't believe the war is right and the way the war was carried out was right. We don't believe Blair's doing is right. We believe he lied to start the war, and we believe the war was for money.
We've got whistles and signs, and we're going to yell quite a lot.
At 7, there'll be a countdown to 7, and then everyone will be trying to make as much noise as possible. I have my whistle, and everyone has instruments, vocal cords, anything they can to make noise, and yeah, we're going to try and make an impact on this, and there are people that are going to try and disrupt it internally as well.
There's no sanctuary, no forgiveness!
They've thrown it into the dustbin of history, but we are supposed to obey the laws of this country. There are no laws in this country. This country is ruled by the law of the gun.
Well, I think it's important to protest now because, of course, Gordon Brown promised to withdraw the troops from Iraq when he took power, and everyone took him at his word and said, well, that's fine, that's what people in Britain wanted, and now he has reneged on that promise. So therefore, it's first of all, it's about keeping the issue of Iraq in the public mind. But also, this man is a war criminal, regardless of whether he's quit his job or not, or regardless of what he's doing at the minute. He is a war criminal, and that doesn't disappear off your record when you quit your job. In the same way as quitting your job doesn't make you innocent of a murder you committed, and this man is responsible for the murder of hundreds, thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of Iraqis.
It's gun size now. It's gun size, mate. So go straight through their soil and slurp up their oil.
It is human nature to structure life into rituals and routines. The need to feel in control of daily issues and events is evident in the way in which we surround ourselves with safety valves in the form of friends, enemies, fire alarms, airbags, and most importantly, to structure our lives in reference to class in our hegemonic society. Karl Marx would separate us into the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. But are the divisions of ruling groups clear in relation to war, and the debate over whether it can ever be fought without the underlying desire for domination?
So the theory is that a person's social identity is clarified through social comparison, generally between in-groups and out-groups. The essence of the theory is that it's concerned with those aspects of identity that derive particularly from group memberships. Individuals, I guess, are motivated towards achieving their own self-esteem, and it can be satisfied by being a member of a group, your own group being the in-group, and comparison, the way that you interact with members of another group, which we'll think of as the out-group. So in order to maximise self-esteem, the so-named intergroup communications between the two groups makes the most of the differences between the in-group and out-group by concentrating on those dimensions which reflect positively upon your own in-group. So sometimes these are very real differences, for instance faith issues, particularly if you think of the war between Muslim and Christian, or even interfaith issues, so within the Christian faith, Catholic and Protestant. Okay. Sometimes, however, they're made up of fictitious differences. So there have been social experiments carried out where members of the public are put into places, and one is made to act as a guard and one is made to act as a prisoner. And also there was an experiment carried out with a group of children where they were split into groups of blue eyes and brown eyes, and I think both those experiments showed how very quickly you maximised the potential of your in-group and minimised all the good points, if there were any, about the out-group.
Tony Blair is a complete and utter monster! Have you seen the babies? Have you seen the babies, officers? You know genocide is a crime. International law has been brought into domestic law. 2001, you're responsible. You're responsible for your black brothers. You're responsible. You all make me sick, you police officers, just doing your job. Look at the law. Look at the law. International Criminal Court Act 2001. Tony Blair is a criminal. We are all aiding and abetting.
I saw a few things, but you don't really think about it much. You try and take your mind off it, because I don't know. It's quite hard to describe really. But yeah, you don't really talk about it with your friends and that. You just try to ignore it. I couldn't really see a change myself to begin with, but when I come back, my family and friends have said they noticed quite a bit. Like I'd got bigger. I've matured quite a bit. I've grown up, and in myself, I noticed I remember the small things. You know, you appreciate stuff a lot more. Because when you're out there and you just hear these rounds coming in, you don't know where they're going to land. You end up looking at small things that you've got like on you, like your bracelet and stuff that people have given you, and like you just look at it and you think, yeah, it takes your mind off, things that have happened and you're just worried about. When you come back and you get told what's been going on, everything seems quite petty, and you think, oh, if only you knew. I can't believe you're telling me this. It's really weird. You go from one extreme, rounds coming in, the heat, and you're back here. It's like you just get off the chartered plane. It's like breath of fresh air. Everything's so green. You're like, whoa, green. It's amazing.
Nightmares by Eddie Watkins. Wake up screaming, drenched with sweat. Another night of terror met. It's getting so I'm scared to sleep in case the monsters crawl and creep. Rats with leathery wings and claw, evil things with gaping maw, teeth designed to rip and maim, creatures from a dark domain. Why can't I dream of nicer things, like country flowers and mountain springs? It seems to me that the question of whether or not Christian faith can be used to justify war is a very difficult one, and different Christians will answer it in different ways. There is no doubt that some people will draw on the Old Testament and show that there were all these holy wars and things like that that went on, and therefore there is justification for war because God went to war and encouraged prophets and kings and people like that to have wars, and therefore war is okay. Other people will say it's not okay, and they would probably cite things like "Blessed are the peacemakers," a quote from the Sermon on the Mount, and say that clearly peace was in Jesus' mind and love for fellow man, and therefore there is no justification for war. And of course the Ten Commandments say you shall not kill, you shall not take a life. So I don't think it's a very simple question for Christians to answer. Some will say it's okay in some circumstances. I think it's never okay full stop, but there may be times when you're up against an enemy, a regime or whatever that is so bad that there is some justification for it. But everybody would end up with saying, what would Jesus do? And the answer is Jesus wouldn't do it. So from that point of view, there is no justification for war from a Christian perspective, but some people will find one.